Ever feel like you're just skimming the surface of, like, really big ideas?
Oh, absolutely. Happens all the time, especially in our world. Everyone wants the quick takeaway.
Right, but some stuff, you gotta go deeper. And that's what we're doing today. We're diving into Western philosophy.
Love it. And we've got a great guide for this deep dive, that YouTube video you sent over. El Iceberg de la Filosofía.
This video is awesome. The way it uses that iceberg analogy is so smart. You see those big names, everyone knows Socrates, Plato, right there at the surface.
Exactly. The tip of the iceberg. But what's lurking beneath?
Oh man, so much philosophical weight.
So much. And the thing is, you can't understand the depths of philosophy without starting at the surface.
You gotta have that foundation.
Exactly. Which is why Nivel Uno of this philosophical iceberg throws us right in with those heavy hitters. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle.
The OGs.
Right. Names you've definitely heard. But when was the last time you sat down and thought about their ideas?
It's easy to forget how revolutionary they were.
For real.
Yeah.
Take Socrates, for example. This guy was the original question everything dude.
Which, let's be honest, can be kind of annoying.
Totally. But also super important. And luckily for us, his student Plato was a great note-taker, because Socrates didn't write anything down himself.
Can you imagine? We'd have, like, secondhand accounts of his ideas.
Wild, right? And Plato gave us one of the most powerful images in philosophy, the allegory of the cave. You ever feel like you're seeing just a shadow of reality, not the real deal?
All the time.
That's Plato. He believed there's this whole higher realm of perfect forms that dictate the reality we experience. But here's the thing, and this is where Plato gets a little controversial. He also believed that only those who could understand those forms should be in charge. Only the philosophers.
Talk about an elitist political theory.
Right. Maybe Plato shouldn't have quit his day job. But it's interesting, though, this connection he makes between knowledge and power.
Definitely. Now, Aristotle, Plato's student, took a bit of a different approach, much more practical. This guy studied everything.
And he wasn't just stuck in an ivory tower. Aristotle traveled all over, observed the natural world.
Totally. And you know what his biggest takeaway was? True happiness, what he called eudaimonia, isn't about chasing pleasure.
It's not about those quick hits of dopamine. It's about living a virtuous life, finding that balance in everything.
Finding that golden mean, as they call it.
Exactly, like courage. It's not about being reckless or cowardly. It's about finding that middle ground.
Makes you think about all the areas in life where that applies. But Aristotle's point is, it's about making choices that lead to a fulfilling life, not just a happy one.
And that's something I think we can all get behind.
For sure. Now, speaking of figuring out this whole being thing, we got to talk about Descartes.
Oh, Descartes. Things are about to get meta.
So meta, he's the one who said, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
It seems so simple, but it revolutionized how we think about existence.
Right. He was basically searching for absolute certainty. And he realized even if you doubt everything else, the very act of doubting proves you exist.
Mind blown.
Right. So doubting yourself is actually proof you exist. Kind of comforting when you think about it.
It's like all those existential crises, actually productive.
Exactly. But it makes you wonder, what other truths are hiding in plain sight? What assumptions do we make without even realizing it?
That's the beauty of philosophy.
Totally. Makes you question everything.
Which, let's be honest, can be exhausting.
Oh, for sure. It's a workout for your brain.
Okay, but get this. These philosophical ideas, they don't just exist in isolation. They build on each other.
Oh, totally. It's
Yeah.
like we're diving deeper into that philosophical web, right?
Exactly. And as we move to Nivel Do's in the video, it's like we can see those connections even more clearly.
This is where things get even juicier, right?
Definitely more complex. We're dealing with some heavy hitters on this level.
For sure. And the video does a good job of unpacking some of these more intricate ideas, like Hegel's dialectic.
Hegel. Now there's a name that can make your head spin.
Right. It sounds intimidating, but actually, once you understand it, it's surprisingly relevant to how we understand, like, everything, especially today.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with how fast things change now. The news cycle, technology, everything's in constant flux.
It's like we're living in the fastest moving dialectic ever.
Right. So Hegel's whole deal was this idea of history moving forward through conflict. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. You've got two opposing ideas. That's your thesis and the antithesis. They clash, they struggle, and boom.
Out comes something new, the synthesis.
Exactly. It's like that aha moment you get when you finally understand both sides of an argument.
And that synthesis becomes the new thesis, right?
You got it. And the whole cycle starts again. Hegel believed this process was the driving force behind, well, pretty much everything.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects. But if Hegel is all about the big picture of history, then Heidegger, whoa, he goes deep on individual experience.
Right. What does it even mean to be? That's Heidegger's jam.
Being and time, right, his most famous work. It's all about existence and how we experience time. Heavy stuff.
Definitely heady. But Heidegger forces you to confront those big existential questions we usually avoid.
Which, let's be real, sometimes you just don't want to think about that stuff. But then we've got Locke coming in with his idea of the tabula rasa, the blank slate.
Oh, Locke. He really throws down the gauntlet with that one.
Right. If we're all born as blank slates, then everything we become is a result of our experiences.
Nature versus nurture. It's a debate that still rages on today. Are we predetermined by our biology, or are we products of our environment?
And this idea of the blank slate leads to another super interesting thought experiment, the ship of Theseus.
Ah, yes. The ship of Theseus. A classic for a reason. Imagine you have a ship, right?
Okay, got it. I'm picturing a majestic ship sailing the high seas.
Perfect. Now, imagine you start replacing parts of this ship. A plank here, a sail there. Over time, you replace every single part.
Okay. So is it still the same ship?
Exactly. That's the question. If every single part is new, is it still the original ship? Or is it something entirely different?
It's blowing my mind a little bit.
And that's just the beginning, because then you could apply that same logic to personal identity. We change so much throughout our lives.
Right. Like, are we still the same person we were 10 years ago? 20 years ago?
Exactly. Have all our experiences fundamentally changed who we are? Or is there some core essence that remains constant?
Okay, now I'm really having an existential crisis.
Join the club. It's all part of the fun.
Okay, so we've got Hegel and his dialectic, Heidegger exploring the meaning of existence, Locke with the blank slate, and now we got to talk about Nietzsche.
Ah, Nietzsche, the ultimate philosophical rebel.
Right. He's the one who came up with this idea of the Superman.
And it's not the comic book kind, which always trips people up.
Right. So what is Nietzsche's Superman all about?
It's about self-mastery, overcoming the limits that society, religion, even morality impose on us. It's about creating your own values.
So less about flying and more about forging your own path.
Exactly. It's about embracing your full potential, even if it means going against the grain.
I love that. But all this talk about creating your own values, it makes you wonder about the whole ethics thing.
Right? Like, if everyone just does whatever they want, where does that leave us?
Chaos.
Right. Which is where Kant comes in with his categorical imperative.
Okay, so Kant is here to keep us all in check.
Exactly. He was all about moral consistency. His categorical imperative boils down to this: act only according to rules that you would want to become universal law.
Oh, okay. So, like, don't cut in line. Because if everyone did that, it would be mayhem.
Exactly. It's like the golden rule, but on a philosophical level.
I can dig it.
It's about respecting everyone's autonomy, recognizing that we're all part of this big moral community.
This is what I love about philosophy. It's like mind-blowing existential questions, but then also practical stuff about how to live a good life.
Right. It's the best of both worlds.
It really is. Okay, so far, on this level of the iceberg, we've got Hegel showing us how ideas clash and evolve, Heidegger making us question the meaning of existence, Locke with the blank slate, Nietzsche urging us to embrace our individuality, and Kant reminding us to act with moral integrity. It's a lot to process.
And we're not even done yet.
Okay, we're diving into nivel trays, the deepest part of the iceberg, and I gotta say, I'm feeling, I don't know, a little nervous about this.
Right. It's like, what's going to be down here? Sea monsters, lost civilizations.
Right, uncharted territory. But in this case, we're talking about the deepest levels of philosophical thought.
The stuff that really messes with your head.
Exactly. Consciousness, the limits of knowledge, the nature of reality itself. It's getting heavy down here.
Deep thoughts, man.
Deep thoughts. But the video doesn't hold back. It's like they saved the most mind-blowing stuff for last.
Well, you got to ease people into it.
Right. So I'm ready. Hit me with some of these level 3 concepts. What's got you thinking?
Okay, how about this? The brain in a vat thought experiment. Imagine your brain is just floating in a vat hooked up to a computer.
Okay, I'm with you so far. A disembodied brain.
And that computer is simulating all your experiences, every sight, sound, smell. It's all just data feeding into your brain.
So, like, how would I know if any of this is real?
You wouldn't. That's the point. You could be living in a simulation right now, and you'd have no way of knowing.
It's like the ultimate what is real question.
Exactly. And it gets even trippier when you start thinking about the implications.
Okay, I'm spiraling a little bit. Let's move on to something else. What about Foucault and the panopticon?
Ah, Foucault. Now, he was all about power, specifically how it operates in subtle, often invisible ways.
And how does the panopticon fit into all of this?
So the panopticon is this prison design where the guards can potentially see all the prisoners at any time, but the prisoners don't know when they're being watched.
Oh, I've heard of this. It's like psychological torture.
Exactly. And Foucault's point is, it's not just prisons. This kind of surveillance, this potential for being watched, it's everywhere.
Especially now with cameras and social media and all that. It's like, are we ever really alone?
That's the question. And it makes you think about how our behavior changes when we know, or even just think we might be watched.
It's like self-censorship on a societal scale. Okay, this is getting a little too real for me. What else is down here in the depths?
Well, how about something a little more meta? Baudrillard's concept of simulacra.
Simulacra. I feel like I should know this one.
It's the idea that in our media-saturated world, images and representations of reality become more real than reality itself.
Oh, wow. So, like, we experience reality through the lens of media.
Exactly.
Oh,
Think
yeah.
about it. We're bombarded with images, videos, information all the time. It shapes how we see the world, how we understand ourselves.
And in a way, it creates this, like, hyper reality. It's like, what's more real, the actual event or the viral video of it? It's kind of scary when you think about it.
It definitely makes you question your own perceptions,
Yeah.
which, again, that's what philosophy is all about.
Yeah.
But it's not just about questioning reality. It's also about questioning meaning.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, this ties into the idea of the death of the author. Once a work of art, a book, a song, whatever is out there in the world, the creator's original intent kind of dissolves.
So it's not about what the artist meant, it's about what the audience takes away from it.
Exactly. The audience becomes an active participant in creating meaning.
I love that. It's like art becomes this ongoing conversation. Wow, this deep dive has been intense. We've gone from questioning our own existence to exploring the limits of knowledge and now the very nature of meaning itself.
And we've only just scratched the surface. And
Yep.
that's the thing about philosophy. There's always more to explore. It's a journey, not a destination.
So true. And the video actually ends on a pretty intriguing note. It suggests that some truths, the really big ones, are ineffable, meaning they can't be put into words.
Which I think is a good reminder that there are some things we can only experience, only feel, only intuit.
Things that exist beyond language. I like that. So, where do we go from here? After this deep dive, what's next?
I think that's up to each of us to decide what resonated with you, what questions are you still grappling with. Take these ideas, these thought experiments, and see where they lead you.
I love that. It's like we're sending our listeners off on their own philosophical quest.
Exactly. Go forth and philosophize.
That's what we're all about. And remember, whether you're grappling with the nature of reality or just trying to figure out what to have for dinner, there's a philosophical question in there somewhere. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been real, and we'll catch you next time.